Welcome to the voice of St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL, 950 AM, 100.3 FM. And you can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. And if you are here on a regular basis, please let more people know what you find here in the program that brings you back. And for those who are here for the first time, welcome, and we hope you stay. And again, let people know what led you here and what brings you here, so that more people can share what we have for you all to listen to. Well, we are here speaking with Mark Shea. We have been all last week and this week as well. And we're looking at what he has to say about Catholic social teaching. Mark is the author of several books and a blog. You can find his blog at markpshea.com, and you can find his books there as well. And we're looking at the church's best kept secret, Catholic social teaching. It's a primer on Catholic social teaching is actually the actual subtitle. And he's talking to us about different aspects. It's been a fascinating discussion with Mark Shea, who, by the way, lives on the opposite end of I-90 from us. He's out in Washington, not too far from the end of I-90, and we are not too far from the beginning of I-90. So let us turn everything over to my interview with Mark Shea, talking about the church's best-kept secret, which is Catholic social teaching. There are stories in the church's history, and there's also the stories in the Bible where, the classic obviously is Absalom, who is killed by David's men, and he's all upset, but he was my son. Right. And there's a story I've told on the air, and I've told in actually preaching, of a man who, I don't know the source of it, but apparently St. Augustine was so angry at this guy who was such a grave sinner that he personally wanted to throw him into hell. And he felt God, or Jesus, saying to him, hey, I died for him and you will treat him with respect.
Right. Yeah. And, and that's, this gets, I mean, we could do a whole thing just on the dignity of the human person.
Sure.
But I want to jump forward a little bit, because this has to do with the rest of the church's teaching. Mm-hmm. What goes with the dignity of the human person is the church's teaching on the common good. Well, I tell a story at the beginning of the church's best kept secret. I went to this parish. I was asked to talk about Catholic social teaching. Mm-hmm. And on one side of the room was the pro-life group, and on the other side of the room was the peace and justice group.
Oh, wow.
And those guys hated each other's guts. And they just darted suspicious glances at one another. And for me, talking about Catholic social teaching, this is like, you guys, you're supposed to be on the same side. You're supposed to be all saying the same thing.
Right.
How can you be living in this weird schism where there's, the pro-life group that's, it's all about the dignity of the human person. And then there's the peace and justice group, which is also all about the dignity of the human person. So how can you be at war? Well, because, as I was already saying, our politics so much drive the way in which we read the tradition, rather than the tradition driving the way in which we understand our politics. Mm-hmm. And so you get American conservatives really love 2 out of the 4 pillars of Catholic social teaching. They love the dignity of the human person, really useful for talking about abortion. And they also love, and we'll get to this in a second, subsidiarity, or really a kind of whittled down misunderstanding of subsidiarity. And people on the left tend to emphasize the common good and solidarity. Mm-hmm. And they have good reasons for that. One of the reasons is because so much of our media bangs away, right-wing media tends to bang away on abortion. Mm-hmm. And pit the unborn against, for example, the capital punishment prisoner, but lots of other people as well. So, for example, in 2004, Catholic Answers came out with a voter's guide, which talked about the 5 non-negotiables And those were abortion, gay marriage, embryonic stem cell research, human cloning, and euthanasia. And what those over the years have gotten whittled down to is abortion, and occasionally the death penalty, or occasionally euthanasia, with the weird exception of state-inflicted euthanasia, which we call the death penalty. And so my point was, these four pillars cannot be pitted against one another. They are not left-wing and right-wing. They are Catholic, and they are all essential. And if you lose any one of them, think of them as the legs on a throne. If you take one of the legs away, the throne tips over.
Wow.
The one sitting on the throne is the human person. Any human person, male, female, born or unborn, of any age, of any status, gravely sinful or a saint, every single human person sits on that throne.
Wow.
And so when we speak about the dignity of the human person, that necessitates that we also speak about the common good, because all the common good is about is saying that just as each person is made in the image and likeness of God, so every person is made in the image and likeness of God. And therefore we all have things that are our just due as human beings. And it is the task of human society to guarantee that justice to everyone. And this brings us to something that fills many conservatives with tremendous fear, which is the role of the state in guaranteeing the common good. Because that is the job of the state. That is, yes, it's our individual job as well. We all have a part to play. But precisely the function of the state is to ensure justice. And so you'll get people, one of the arguments that I heard, for example, for years against universal health care was that the state is not supposed to be taking care of charity. And healthcare was therefore conceived of as charity.
Wow.
Well, healthcare is not charity. Healthcare is justice. If I'm on a bus and you're sitting next to me and I got $10 burning a hole in my pocket, I don't owe you $10.
Right.
And if I decide for some reason out of the goodness of my heart, you look down here, have $10, that would be charity. That would be an act of gratuitous care for you that I didn't have to do, but I decided to do. But here's the thing. If instead I step off the bus and I find you lying in a pool of your own blood because you were just mugged, and I step over you and walk away from you, I have not denied you charity any more than the rich man in the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, or the priest and the Levite in the parable of the Good Samaritan, when they walked by the beaten man lying by the road. They did not deny those victims charity. They denied those victims justice.
Wow.
Because that person is owed their life. And it is therefore up to the rest of us to see that justice is done. So I would be bound before God, and I would be sinning before God if I stepped over you and walked away while you're bleeding. Because point. I owe you justice.
As a fellow human being, as part of society.
Right. Yes. And so here's the thing. The state's job is to ensure justice, not charity. Therefore, the state's job is to see to it that Lazarus has water, has food, has clothing, and if he's found lying in a pool of blood, has health care. And it, of course, doesn't have to just be something as dramatic as a pool of blood. It can be all kinds of other illnesses. And so the church in the United States, for the last century, has called for universal health care as a function of justice.
Wow.
Not as a function of charity. And so the state has a real role here. And this goes, of course, right back to Romans 13. That's the state's job, says Paul, is to ensure justice. And so the notion that the state should not be involved in providing health care, and this is just one example, because that's somehow charity, or that it's somehow, if the state does this, then I'm being robbed of my ability to be charitable. That's rubbish. There's plenty of ways for me to be charitable. But if my need to get credit for being charitable is more important than the fact that some family is going to have to wind up living in their car under a freeway overpass in order to afford leukemia care for their 4-year-old daughter, then the hell with my need to feel charitable. This is something that has to be seen to, and therefore will involve the state.
You're listening to the voice of St. Anthony Parish from Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL 950 AM, 100.3 FM, and you can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. We'll be right back right after this. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. And don't forget our own website, CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. You can check out our website, and you can check out all the things that we offer there, including feedback. If you'd like to send us feedback, please consider doing that. Well, tomorrow we will be back with more of Mark Shea and his great teaching for us from his book, The Church's Best Kept Secret, a primer of Catholic social teaching, and he's giving us a whole information about Catholic social teaching. So we'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon right here on WROL and WROLradio.com. Have yourself a blessed day. In Cristo vivimos.